the winning quarterback in the Super Bowl, 5 #1 overall draft picks in the last decade, and the best quarterbacks in college football. What do they all have in common? They were each Elite 11 finalists, the nation's premier high school quarterback competition. Whittling down the best of the best throughout 9 regional events, the Elite 11 Finals features the top 20 signal callers in the class of 2023, each looking to become one of the Elite 11. Names like Tua, Trevor, Tebow, Luck, Kyler Murray, Matthew Stafford, they all went head-to-head against their peers while honing their skills on the field and in the classroom. Epic battles from the past include C.J. Stroud against Bryce Young, Justin Fields against Trevor Lawrence, and many more. And this year's group descends upon Los Angeles from June 28th through the 30th with realistic Heisman dreams. 12 of the last 13 quarterbacks who've won the award previously competed in the Elite 11 regionals or finals. This year's group is loaded, featuring 4 of the top 5 rated signal callers in the 2023 class. Nico Iamaleava, currently committed to Tennessee, Malachi Nelson, a USC commit, and Jaden Rashada, all standouts from California, plus Dante Moore out of Michigan. And while you might not know those names yet, if history at the Elite 11 is any indication, you'll soon be seeing them on one big stage or another.
I mean, it's impressive looking at all the names that have been through this. You see Arch Manning at the top just announcing that he is going to commit to Texas. The Elite 11 is a premier quarterback event in the nation, bringing together those nation's top signal callers each offseason to compete and prove their skill set both on and off the field. I mentioned Arch. He's actually not at the Elite 11 camp that we're going to go out to shortly. 11, though, of the top 20 quarterback prospects of the class of 2023 are attending this Elite 11 camp.
And alongside Steve Wiltfong, I am Josh Pate here in Los Angeles at Elite 11. Steve, we were just talking coming in about Arch Manning. That's a big name that's not here, but what's interesting with all the big names that are here is, are we looking at anyone that potentially makes a move here? Because that battle for #1 is still kind of up in the air.
Yeah, 20 of the nation's top quarterbacks are here outside of Arch Manning, and there are several that are in the mix to be the #1 player overall in the country. Our #2 and #3 prospects are here. Malachi Nelson, who's committed to USC, he's the #2 player in America, and Nico Iamaleava, who's committed to Tennessee, he checks in at #3. Then you have Dante Moore, our #4 ranked passer. He's the #8 player overall in the country. So there's 3 guys ranked in the top 10 right there that have a chance to ascend to #1. And this is a competition where we're going to get a chance to see how these young men stack up side by side. But another guy that I think is squarely in the mix that doesn't get enough talk is Jackson Arnold, committed to Oklahoma, led Denton Guyer to the state championship game as a junior in Texas's largest class against what I think is the best high school football competition in the country. And they had Austin Westlake, in my opinion, the best high school football team on the ropes, 3-time state champs in a row for Austin Westlake, but Denton Guyer had him on the ropes. And Jackson Arnold, one of the reasons, had 2 rushing touchdowns and a touchdown pass in that ball game, but threw for over 3,000 yards, rushed for over 500 yards as a junior. And I know he was #1 on several premier college football programs board. And I'm going to break some hearts here. He told me Notre Dame was his leader at one point in the process, but when Brent Venables got hired at Oklahoma and brought Jeff Lebby with him, who he was close with at Ole Miss, he said, I probably wasn't going to go to Ole Miss, he said when he checked in. But Lebby at Oklahoma being 2.5 hours away, Oklahoma catapulted over Notre Dame and Ohio State for Jackson Arnold, and they have maybe the #1 quarterback in the country committed. We'll see what it looks like after this competition.
You mentioned a lot of top 10 guys here, but a lot of top 247 guys, and maybe some guys just outside the top 247. This is always a camp that is ripe with competition, and therefore also a prime position and maybe even a platform for someone to make a move. So maybe who's a guy or two that's not even in that top 247 conversation right now that we could see enter that conversation after Elite 11 finals?
Well, to put it into perspective, we've seen that before. C.J. Stroud showed up at this event, a 3-star recruit, left basically a 5-star and went, has gone on to Ohio State and done great things. Who's a guy that could do that in this competition? Well, a guy who's rising up a lot of recruiting boards right now is Brock Glenn out of Memphis, Tennessee. He's a guy that right now LSU just recently offered Florida State's heavy in the mix with Mike Norvell and his Memphis ties, and Ohio State, they're in the thick of that one with Brock Glenn as well. He's a guy that's coming in as a 3-star recruit on 24/7 Sports that has a chance to certainly ascend in the rankings moving forward.
Do you think, as you kind of enter this setting, that it's unique unto any other camp setting we see? Because I know the general public hears the term camp, and they look at these settings, and sometimes you think laid back, but then we look at the names and players walking through these hallways right now. You look at the posters behind us of the names who have come through here before. You mentioned a guy like C.J. Stroud kind of cementing his ranking here. What kind of level of competition are you talking about once you get out on the field later today?
Well, there's a lot of great coaches here at this event that put these guys through some challenging competitions to really get the best out of them, but also see what they're made of. And so here we're going to get a chance to see these young men really get challenged and go through some tough drills, some tough obstacles, and some tough coaching. And with that, the cream rises to the top.
Every time big names kind of get in the same room or get in the same setting, the competition is one part of the conversation. But you, Steve Wiltfong, know good and well. Another part is, are there any potential flip candidates here? And we've got some big names and a lot of big programs eyeballs. What are some names I may want to keep an eye on in the flip department?
Well, I think one of the guys that's being pursued the most is Austin Novosad out of Dripping Springs, Texas. He's currently committed to Baylor, but Ohio State's in there. Ohio State got him to camp, then got him back for an official visit, and they've really excited him. And then Texas A&M recently offered. He's a Texas A&M legacy. Both of his parents went to school in College Station. He camped with Texas A&M a long time ago, but then Eli Holstein, who's now committed to Alabama, committed to A&M, so they thought they were out of the quarterback race. But they recruited Jaden Rashada and Dante Moore a little bit, but they're in on Austin Novosad now, so he's a guy that's looking at those schools. He also said Georgia, Florida, and Notre Dame are in contact as well, so program's still looking for a quarterback, maybe looking closely at Austin Novosad.
Yeah, you mentioned Eli Holstein there, the Alabama commit. Alabama was one of the names in it for Arch Manning. Arch ultimately verbally commits to Texas. We'll talk about him in just a second. But Eli Holstein is not a guy, at least in Alabama circles, they think takes a backseat to anyone. What kind of talent are we talking about with Eli Holstein?
Well, he's the most athletic quarterback here at this camp. These quarterbacks at the regionals, they do an athletic testing competition where they do a 40-yard dash, a shuttle, a vertical leap, and a power toss. And Eli Holstein runs a 4.6 with a 4.1 shuttle and a 38-inch vertical leap. Those are numbers that defensive backs, which some defensive backs would be jealous of here on the high school level. He leads Zachary High to a state championship down there in Louisiana. He's accurate to all levels of the field. He's got a college-ready body right now. And he's a guy that was, there's about 7 or 8 quarterbacks in this class that were heavily recruited, that were near the top of the board for all the premier schools. And Eli Holstein was one of them, and I know he's excited to be down here and compete alongside those guys and possibly earn a 5th star.
I think maybe to wrap it up here, people who don't follow the day-to-day in the world of recruiting look at this event, and you hear all the names you just rattled off, and then we mentioned Arch Manning not here. Kind of put it in perspective, like, what does that mean? Is that a big deal? How surprising is it that he's not here amongst these names?
Well, I think if he was here, it would be kind of a media circus. We'd have a whole lot of media standing here behind us. So for Arch, it's tough for him to get out and go to camps just because of all the hoopla that would come with it. Obviously, it would be awesome if he was here throwing next to Malachi Nelson and Nico and Dante Moore, Jaden Rashada, Jackson Arnold, to name a few. But we got a chance to see him in the fall a lot. We have live game evals. We saw his spring football game. We've been down there for workouts. So we've had plenty of opportunities to evaluate Arch Manning, and recently as well. So excited to now compare what we saw with him with some of the young men that are going to be out here competing in this competition.
Just getting underway from L.A. Jenny, plenty of Elite 11 coverage to come over the next several days. Back to you.
You guys are the best. Our Josh Pate, still Steve Wiltfong holding it down for us out there at the Elite 11 camp in Los Angeles. And if you want more, you got to check out the Late Kick with Josh Pate. He delivers college football the way you like it. Behind the scenes, whispers, intel, all the information you can want and need. That's Thursdays and Sundays at 8 p.m. You can find that live on YouTube and, of course, on Facebook.